Hi, Sundara.
Actually, the Vietnamese numbers are quite high, but the
Are they?
yeah,
They're very high.
yeah, they have very good attendance.
Well, that's
But
wonderful.
it's also out of consideration for Ajahn, I think that
Yes. Okay. Yes, and that I think
it's important. Yeah.
I think maybe
the people who replied to me were quite happy with the hour and a half. So for the same reasons as we've suggested it.
I think Ajahn, are you here now?
ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
I thought that for the American and Mexican, I think that 2 hours is all right because in other program that other can listen to the Vietnamese and Chinese. See, but for the America, the time is not available as to just have only once. See, but they can listen to this Saturday and the Monday and Tuesday to Monday and Wednesday. So it's all right because I think that after that I'm free the whole day. So it doesn't matter depending on you whether you like to have 1 hour or 1 hour and a half or 2 hours. But
Let's make it. We make it 90 minutes, and then see if anyone has more questions or points to discuss further, so it can be
But
flexible.
I think for your sake, for your benefit, it's more important for the American just 2 hours, while the other can listen to the other program as well, like Chinese and Vietnamese, see, and Saturday program, while the American cannot have proper good time for that. It depends, all right, but it does. I don't have anything to do on.
Anyway, everyone appreciates your generosity and making yourself available for it, Ajahn. That's
Because as soon as I wake up, it's all right the whole day. All pressure.
you
All
still need to have breakfast and other things.
Dhamma.
Thank you, Ajahn. So maybe we check in after an hour and a half and see where people are.
Yes. But for me, I'm available all day.
Okay. Good, thank you.
You are amazing, Tanajan. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I think that it's the best thing in life to have the other to hear. That was not easy to listen at all. Even the opportunity to hear is not as much in a day or in life because so many things all day.
That's true. So true. Well, thank you, Ajahn.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead, Ajahn.
the best one's life. Just carry on.
Sundara, I noticed on the DSG website that you were hoping to be able to continue some discussion, I think with regard to compassion, Karuna. Continue it today.
Well, I don't know if I specifically said that. However, I know that was the discussion, and I think somebody intimated or indicated that they would like to continue that discussion. I made a note just online, just within the last few hours, about some things that I wanted to add, and I thought they were relevant, so I put those down. And one of them was relating, excuse me, to the nature of that many Westerners think that, for example, when they see somebody suffering and they take that their own physical or their own mental unpleasant feelings, and they mistake this for compassion, because they then go on to feel that unpleasantness that they're experiencing needs to be stopped, and so they may come up with the idea of doing something that's really not helpful and for anybody. And I think this is often misunderstood. You know, we see some suffering and we don't like the unpleasant feeling and that goes along with that, and we want to finish it or terminate it instead of learning to understand it. And as the Jan was talking about towards the end, learning to be kind, trying to be as helpful and as understanding and as compassionate in that true sense of the word as we can be, rather than trying to get rid of the unpleasant feeling. And I suppose this comes back to many issues that we have in life, because we have a strong proclivity or tendency towards, because of attachment, towards pleasant feeling, and we don't like to deal with unpleasant feeling. And so this can transfer to, this kind of attitude can transfer into all sorts of situations, and it ends up being not very skillful at all. But however, look, I'm talking a bit too much, and I'm conscious of Tana Jan. Perhaps you may like, if you like, Tana Jan, and we're always appreciative of what we have to say about the nature of compassion and the nature, on the other hand, of unpleasant feeling, and how those two can be better understood.
I think that usually we sometimes think more about the others, their welfare and so on, but forget that actually there is no one. And even we heard about this quite a long time, but the clinging to the idea of self and thing always there because of ignorance from life to life so long ago. So how can there be moment to condition, even thinking about what is there? Usually I heard about the COVID and trouble and so on, but if I pay much attention to, can I help? Impossible. That's why the best thing in life is not forgetting that actually there is no one. So it's time to understand what is there as not self. For example, if we pay attention to the other so much, forgetting about what chitta is there, unwholesome all day, or wholesome. And actually the point, the absolute truth is that actually there's no one. It's the way the world, the arising and falling of realities have to go on and on and on and on, uncontrollable. So it depends on understanding. If we can help them to understand, that is much better than thinking about them, about the trouble, and we cannot help. So what we can help is that help them to understand. But not many people are interested in understanding the truth. That's why we have to be kind and be understanding person and help as much as we can. But don't forget chitta at this very moment, because no matter what's going on in life, the point is ignorance is there, not understand the truth of actually even not know me at all. It's only conditioned realities arising and falling away, uncontrollable. So when we can understand the cause of trouble, then we can have less trouble. Not for the others, but for oneself, because actually there's no one and nothing. It doesn't mean that we don't care them, but we understand reality as it is and can understand what is the best thing to have. And not just them, but what about now, at moment of thinking about them. And when there is the understanding of that which is now, understanding as what one takes for I, as it is, as a self, will condition more wholesome moment for the others too. Not regret, not feel bad, better than just having trouble thinking about them.
So you said,
We can do.
so you said, oh no, please continue, John. So
But-
you're saying really, it's all right.
Yeah, that's right. If there's no forgetting about the truth, no one. And the point is that actually when we take them as beings, see, so much trouble. But when there is understanding, kindness is there too, because it is adosa. See. Understanding reality is very, very difficult. But to know that it's the way to let go the idea of self. And if there is no letting go the idea of self, there must be more trouble. Thinking about them with trouble in mind and try to help them when there is trouble in mind, that is useless. But when the chitta at that moment is kusala, it's not trouble, but it can help better to understand the situation and so on, and how to help at the proper time, proper word, proper manners, proper help.
So you're saying, Tanajan, really that the more understanding of the present reality there can be, this will be conditioned for more kindness in our life.
And the best thing to do is with wholesome chitta. That moment too, benefit for both. The wholesome chitta and help the other in wholesome way.
Yes.
So usually I just listen to the COVID and the situation, but at the same time, the reality at that moment should be object of understanding as well. Otherwise, life is useless. Just learn about the words and what about now. So actually understanding is that which now appearing because it arises and falls away. And when there is still ignorance, no understanding, how can just only one reality appear as it is to Panya, which begins to learn to know the truth, the absolute truth that nothing is there, only that object. Imagine the enlightenment of the Buddha. Nothing is there, only one object at a time. Otherwise, that object cannot be clearly understood as it is, as no thing. It's only that characteristic which is now appearing. So the hindrance is ignorance and attachment, because that is ignorance and attachment of that which has gone and that which follows all the time, succeedingly. That's right, only right understanding to understanding the path of letting go, let little by little. And it doesn't make any trouble because it doesn't change one's life by accumulation. Life still goes on by conditions, but with a little more understanding of hearing, considering, and the beginning of understanding that which is now appearing by conditions, always by conditions. It's not just I would like to have more. I try to concentrate. I would like to learn this and that more. But what about just even the reality which arises and experience? Just arise and experience and then gone. Unknown. This is the point of understanding. Just live to understand the truth of what is now appearing. In the beginning, it's not quite often, but little by little, it develops until there can be a little more confidence of the truth. And it doesn't matter at all. It will be known now or then, depending on conditions. So life go on by understanding more of that which appears because of conditions. Because of conditions. So no trouble, less trouble, little by little, because they're gone. And we can live happily with the other, no matter what situation is, because when it's so distress, who can help? But the feeling there can be known as not me. I can listen to any situation, but I cannot stand the sound of crying. How much sorrow and bad feeling is there that conditions such cry, see, much more than just live and still laugh or eat or whatever, but crying at that moment. How much distress, how much happiness, how much painful is there. So I wish not to hear that sound of crying. It's the degree of unbearable at all. But anyway, life is that conditioned, no matter what kind of feeling is there. It has to be known as it is, as it has been accumulated. So it doesn't change one's life. One can laugh, one can eat, one can enjoy life. But Panya has to have to understand whatever is there as it hasn't been known as no one as before. So it takes quite long time to let go, even the idea of wanting to understand this, wanting to have more direct awareness or direct understanding, because everything is just enough for that situation by conditions. When the condition is not much, how can there be more result? So life goes on as usual with more understanding, which at that moment can let go the idea of self. Otherwise, attachment is still there all the time, unknown all the time. That's why it is the second truth. All the noble truths are so very subtle. Even the path now, understanding develops by all wholesome Cetasikas. Even right understanding cannot arise by itself. There must be Phassa, there must be Vedana, there must be Sanya, Sankara, Dhamma, unknown. For example, can Sanya be directly understood as it is? If there is this moment of just pinpointing to know this or that, Lopa is there, who knows? Because actually, all are Namadhamma, that which experiences, but it has its own characteristic different from each one. That's why no intention to understand or to have sanya or vedana or whatever as the object, because they are all dhammas, namadhamma, which can experience by its own way, its proper way. Citta is the chief only. It experiences only. It cannot like or dislike because its function is just to know clearly what the object is, because it has such a chief of experiencing. But the other cetasika, like sanya or lopa or dosa, we know just the nimitta and just think about it as I have it or I am angry and so on. But actually, what are there to be known? No choice, because they can be sanya or anything, but as long as they do not appear as the experiencing, the reality which experiences, it's impossible to know what is what. For example, right now, there is seeing and there's feeling and there's sanya and other jetasikas, but they are nama, that which experience, which is different from that which cannot experience. See, so no matter what is there, no name, but the characteristic of that which are there together, but only one is the object which appear as nama dhamma. In the beginning, they cannot appear clearer than just that which can experience. That is clear for the stage of vipassana jnana, or to understand reality clear as not just thinking about it, but it's there. And no matter is there, the characteristic of that which experiences is there. And by then, no choice, later on, there can be that which is known as Nama, but it has its own characteristic, one by one. So we don't have to find out anymore. We don't have to try anymore to know this or that, because now they are there together. But the characteristic of Nama has to be directly experienced first. Otherwise, what about that which is seen and the seeing, and that which heard and that which hear? So it's a long way to go, but the moment of understanding the subtlety, the profound reality of the path is there to know that it cannot, no one can be there to do anything at all. Because actually, when what appears, it cannot be anyone anymore. So live to understand the truth, the absolute truth, from life to life.
So, Tana Janka, you were talking earlier on about crying, how some people cry around unpleasant situations. And we were talking earlier on, I believe it was the last discussion about this aspect of the dart or the arrow, and how people compound or make even more difficult the problem they have by crying. And you were saying that, well, obviously indicating that this is not helpful. So what, how do we...
And each different one. For me, I cannot bear the sound of cry. I wish not to hear it at all, because how much trouble, how much dukkha, how much bad feeling is there, that sound can condition such sound. See? But at the same time, there must be even right understanding to understand that moment as not self. See? Just to show the different accumulation for each one, not to do anything but trying to have understanding, because it's impossible. It has to be any moment, even right now. And in a day, if there's not enough understanding by conditions, stage by stage, to understand whatever is there as not self, not anything, it's impossible to be able to enlighten the truth higher and higher, deeper and deeper, because there's so much in a day in life. Different jetasikas from moment to moment. Even lopa is not the same, see? So if panya is not strong enough, it's not keen enough, it's not sharp enough, it's impossible to fight or to let go that which is taken for self for a long, long time. So even crying or wishing, see, even whatever is there has to be known. And this is the point of studying, to understand the absolute truth. But the loka is that we cling so much to everything that is so very hard, very difficult to let go. But panya develops little by little until it's enough to understand the truth of even that which is so strong, no matter it's loba or dosa or mana or whatever. Just to show how deep, how subtle the path is. So what we heard about crying or wishing not to have it, only to understand the different accumulation for this person and what about the other. Each has to understand one's own accumulation. Otherwise, it has to be I all the time. So no matter what appears to eyes, ears, no tongue, and the idea, thinking about COVID or thinking about whatever, it's only a moment. No one there at all. But we can help because understanding that actually it's by conditions. If one does not help, by condition. If one can help more by the other, it's by conditions. To understand reality which is accumulated and show up when time comes to be object of right understanding. Now it's the object of ignorance. What are there in the day? By conditions only. And this is the against of the current of ignorance, going against little by little.
So no matter how unpleasant the reality that appears, it needs to be understood.
Otherwise, wrong understanding. So many happenings, many moments in life has to be known. Otherwise, it means that panya is not sharp, it's not clear enough to let go that which is there as no self at all. Who can make the situation very bad, and who can make the situation different from that? No one. But the conditions has been accumulated for that moment to be such, enough to be such, but not enough for understanding, because it has to understand more and more and more, but understanding the condition for each one, each moment. That's why there can be more understanding of ignorance of anyone, even oneself. So let go.
So probably it's not that it needs to be understood, but it's about knowing that there is either self or, I mean, taking the object as self when there's no understanding. And
Take the object which is seen for you, belonging to you.
in reality,
Take
with understanding, I would know that it does not belong to me. But without understanding, I will take it as mine.
So it's not you, but ignorance take it for me, and right understanding begin to understand the truth that it's not there anymore. So very, very fast, it's gone. What is left is only like clinging to that which has been gone, as it's still there. I think that many people can have such different feeling, so pleasant, as they remember that. But what's the use? It's there, and it's the object of clinging deeply to. But where is that? No more. But clinging clings. Still cling, see, to that which has been there. Only once in lifetime in samsara, and then gone. What is left is only clinging to that. That's why Panya has to be so very keen to understand that actually there is nothing. It's just dreaming about that which is no more. And that is moment of waking up to understand the truth, little by little, not fully awakened yet. And this is life. We can say that it's just like a dream, because in the dream we have so many things. But when one wakes up, where are they? Only thinking about that. And thinking is from different from moment to moment by conditions. It's not there. Always cling. There can be moment of dosa and other moment too. Seeing is not clinging, but clinging after seeing and cling to seeing, which says that's all. Ignorance is there, covers up everything as the world of so many things, pleasant and unpleasant, but actually Only that which arises and falls away is the world, everything. Because when nothing arises, how can that be the world or any moment in life? No life, no experiences.
And the point about the not bearing the crying is just to show that the accumulated tendencies are conditioned to be just as they are at each moment. So everyone knows that if someone is very sad, kindness and compassion and understanding is best. But what about the sadness or the strong dosa or the clinging at those moments? Each moment, each accumulated tendency has to be just the way it is. And we think that it's the experience of a very unpleasant situation or experience, but actually it's just sound heard and the accumulated tendency to think and respond and react like that. It's just the way it is by different tendencies, different conditions. Like I had a brief exchange with Anne about when grieving over the loss of a family member, and it seems the sadness goes on a long time, but it has to be like that because the attachment has been accumulated for so long, the sadness has been accumulated for so long, but there can be moments of understanding anytime, unexpectedly, but no one can change the tendencies, no one can do anything. So that's why it's the understanding of what is conditioned as anatta that is most beneficial of all. Some people can't bear to see the sight of blood or injury, and some people can't bear to hear crying. Different tendencies, different accumulations, that's all, different attachments. And it's just so ordinary daily life to be understood at this moment, the tendency just as it is, not belonging to me or anyone.
That's very helpful, Sarah. It was helpful a couple of weeks ago when you sent it, and even more now. I think we have a, maybe I just speak for myself, but there is a tendency, well, certainly tendencies to take things for self, but to fault oneself for doing things, and for some of these tendencies that arise, rather than accepting this is the way it has to be.
If there's thinking it should be another way, if there's thinking I shouldn't react like that to crying, or I shouldn't be sad any longer, this is just more clinging, more beating oneself up.
Right.
And it doesn't help at all. But even that thinking like that is conditioned because of clinging to the idea of self or someone. So that's why the understanding of dharmas as anatta is most beneficial of all.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that beating upon oneself again is like again the story of the double arrow. You know, there is the reality, and we have a virgin daughter, we don't like it, so we're compounding the problem. So and we don't normally, like you were talking there, and about sorrow and sadness and being upset, and that's, as we know, totally understandable. But we don't usually think about that usually when there is a lot of attachment and pleasant feeling. We don't beat upon ourselves about that.
And I think the same applies to the thinking in terms of I and me and the other being and so forth. There's this tendency, and everyone has accumulated the tendency to think in those terms. So it's not correct to think that we shouldn't have such thoughts coming to mind. But as with any other kind of agusala, which it usually is for us, it's either attachment or conceit or wrong view. Like the tendency we were talking about earlier and the development of panya, panya purifies the citta and eventually, of course, eradicates the unwholesomeness. But in the meantime, wholesome tendencies are made purer, not necessarily because we still have the same balance of tendencies to have compassion or to have metta or to want to help in this way or that way. But the panya that's being developed helps purify those moments and likewise eventually eradicates the unwholesome aspect of the thinking. But as I understand it, the enlightened being will also have thoughts of I and me and the other being. But those thoughts have been purified by the panya. There's no more wrong view involved in that line of thinking. So again, the accumulated tendencies are there, and we shouldn't be thinking that's wrong. It's wrong of me to think this way or to have that kind of feeling.
Well, that's where the understanding helps so much, is if there is some understanding that they are tendencies. They're not me, they're not anything else. And well, it's the attempt, the wish to control. If one thinks, oh, I'd like not to be like this or not to be like that or not to react one way or the other.
Very strong clinging to self.
Right. It's almost understanding brings an acceptance of this is the way things are. They can't be any other way.
It's just dharmas that are conditioned. Yeah. It has to be like that.
Yeah. And if you fight that with, no, it's me, then you're going the wrong way for sure. So there's the fine line between doing nothing and understanding, in the sense that, we know intellectually, or we hear anyway, that we need to, where am I? Listen and consider that is the most, that is the path, not trying to do something or control something. And it's sometimes, well, I remember way back, I was quite conscious of, how can this be? Do nothing. And yet there's that, as I say, there's that fine line between just recognizing, understanding that it's it's listening to the Dhamma and discussing it that is going to lead to understanding. So the do nothing is not a negative thing at all. It's just an acceptance of this is how it works.
So what about, for example, when you're feeling very sad, you have lots of sorrow, and you look for somebody for help, let's say a therapist, right? That means that that you are not accepting the way things are?
Well, I think that's going to depend on many things, because we're all so very, very different. And this aspect of do nothing or do something, they can be equally a trap. It's always going to depend on understanding when we say those words, because ultimately they're just words. And what underpins those words? Is there understanding, or are they just, some ideas that are really not grounded in understanding? So, like when you say seek a therapist, well, we know the Buddha, Samma Sambuddha, is the most profound therapist, and Ajahn has helped us to understand what that therapy, if you like, involves. And it's not easy therapy to take or easy therapy to understand, but we can begin to understand it little by little, you know, like in these groups here. It's a kind of therapy, if you like, what we're doing now. We're attending, hopefully wisely, some of the time, to attend to what Tanajan is sharing with us. So that can help us to get over the problems that samsara is throwing at us in different ways, and you know, our own accumulations that go along with that. So it's a slow process, and as Ajahn has always talked about, is it's, you know, it takes a lot of incredible levels of patience and commitment, being resolute to the truth in a way, and that's, to me, the highest kind of therapy.
And I think, Roti, that one acts as according to one's accumulations and does the best one can. So if one is, I don't know, having some problem like sleeping or lots of dark thoughts in the middle of the night and that sort of thing, one may decide to consult a therapist. I don't think it means that one necessarily has strong wrong view just to do that, because it's like an illness and one takes a medicine. One consults a doctor. One doesn't think, well, it's my vipaka, do nothing. So I don't think we can say for sure. It all depends on the individual.
And in truth,
I don't see any conflict with developing the path and also consulting a therapist necessarily.
And in truth, each moment is conditioned. So no matter one seeing a therapist or not seeing a therapist, no matter one gets a COVID vaccination or doesn't get it, no matter one turns left or right, each moment of seeing, each moment of hearing, each moment of thinking is conditioned and not self. So it's the understanding that is important, that develops, not thinking one should go this way or go that way, one should go into the forest or one should go into the city. It's seeing and hearing and thinking regardless.
Yeah, that makes
So
a lot of
when
a lot of-
understanding develops, then one just, like Ajahn said, one just lives life normally, naturally, according to one's interests and tendencies. Some people visit the doctor or the therapist a lot. Some people, like
Right.
my mother, never went to a doctor, never went to see a counselor. So it just depends on each moment, each chitta.
Right.
Otherwise,
That's a-
one's setting rules again.
Again, exactly. That's a very good answer. Thank you.
I remember a discussion quite a long time ago. It had to do with one's, the sadness, feeling depressed, and the question of, well, are antidepressants something that one should or shouldn't consider? And the answer was very much the same. Sort of, it depends on accumulations, etc. But it's like if you, I don't know, if you have a raging infection, do you take antibiotics? Well, why not? You do what you can.
Yeah, I
but
think
in the end, it's going to depend on accumulations and jitta and getting the infection is not getting it, but dealing with the infection. If the antibiotics will deal with it, that's fine, that's good and well, but they may not be able to, and that could be the vipaka.
Yeah, I think, like, for example, that question, like taking antidepressants or not taking them, if what you base your decision on is like, all your particular conditions or whatever you read about antidepressants, or I think that's fine. But if you base your decision like in, oh, if I don't take them, then that will hinder my way to enlightenment or something like that, then, then that's the wrong path.
I think the point there might be is medicine, and if you need it, you have the option to take it. If your accumulations are such that you want to take it, then go right ahead.
May just be because of mana that one thinks, oh, I shouldn't need to have this help or assistance or therapy or whatever. So instead of just accepting that maybe one needs that assistance at that time.
Yeah.
On the John Cup, how do you feel about visiting a therapist? What would be your feelings and ideas around that?
Okay, I think that we talk a lot and long story about everything, but, can anyone stop the arising of this moment from moment? Just this moment, see, not long story. Only seeing from hearing about it, it is conditioned to arise and falls away, but the thing itself conditioned the next moment by Andrapachaya. So who can stop the arising of Dhamma, the reality of right now? No matter thinking about this or that, who can stop that? No one at all. So why thinking about this and that? All by condition, even thinking right now, or what is there? Clinging to such and such, going to such and such, doing this and such and such. It's condition, no one there at all. This is to understand life as it is. When Lopa is there trying to change or twist it to different situation, it's not understanding of the moment when it has to arise because of conditions. And it has to be only that by conditions or by conditions. That's why understanding the conditions and the way whatever appear is conditioned. It's like looking or watching the play or whatever, but no one there at all. Only different realities perform their own function. That's all. Even thinking about this therapy or whatever, by conditions, by such thought of thinking arise after seeing and hearing and on and on. We begin to understand reality so clearly, little by little, that no one there. They are realities, different one, conditioned by different conditions. No one can stop the arising of what is there as it's conditioned for its arising. It has to arise by conditions. That's all. Otherwise, there must be the idea of I listen to such theory and about Dhamma, and Dhamma is this way, so I think this way or that way. But actually, it's not understanding the reality as no self, as we heard, because the I always is there with attachment, thinking about anything after hearing the teachings. But to understand this moment, that no one can do anything, even one would like to stop seeing or thinking about medicine or anything, impossible. It's done by condition, by different Cetasikas. See, no one. So it's only Panya which can begin to understand what is there now. No one can stop the way it is, the way it appears, and the way it's gone at all. But life goes on with ignorance all the time. No understanding of each moment as it is, that it's not there anymore. To understand that is better than try to think about what can be the situation for such and such after hearing and understanding how much and how long. See, that is not letting go the idea of self, because it's impossible to let go the idea of self in the wrong way. It has to be right understanding to understand it better and better, that actually what is meant by Dhamma is that which is real. Reality is that which is now appearing. Otherwise, How come to understand that which is not there at all? So even while one is thinking about going to see the doctor or taking medicine or having very delicious food, it's all by conditions. Only Panya can begin to insert between ignorance and liking of pleasure to understand it. Just a moment, and we don't know how moments are there and how when it will be after understanding a little better more and more. So it's not just trying to find out the answer for such situation, but to understand it as no one. And this is studying Dhamma, and how much understanding the truth of Dhamma is there in life. It appears to just that person, one's own accumulation, each moment, to like or dislike, to be able to bear or not able to bear. See, by conditions, to think this way or that way, even right now. Different sound, see, by conditions. Different idea by different condition. Just to like what looking on the truth that is there. So true one day that it will appear as it is. Otherwise, there must be another story from moment to moment, from day to day, all the time, trying to find out. But it's not that. It the understanding, the truth, deeper and better, little by little. That the truth of that which arises and falls away is not far away at all. It's now, this moment. No matter is it thinking right now, or hearing right now, or seeing right now. The truth is there to be known one day as it is, arising and falling away. But before all, there must be the understanding more about that which is there as not self. It experiences, or it is that which cannot experience. No word when it's there, because the characteristics show up. Hardness, it cannot experience anything. We don't have to say that cannot experience, but the characteristic of hardness means that it is hard, only hard. Each reality is there all the time, unknown. That's why the teaching and the standing, considering the truth little by little, can bring more understanding that the truth is there very deeply, very profound, very subtle, because now it arises and falls away, each which appear all the time. The answer for each situation is the understanding of this.
Your wonderful answer, John. John. Sadhu.
I think usually everyone loves to get involved in stories, like Ajahn said, about COVID, or about whether this or that therapy is good or right, or one after the other, one situation after another. And usually there's forgetting about how it's just thinking, which is conditioned now, just seeing, just hearing, just thinking, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the action or the activity is. So that's why when there's more understanding, there's less and less trouble or confusion or concern about what is the right way or what is the wrong way, or how someone should or shouldn't do this, because it's still just seeing and hearing and thinking, and life proceeds according to conditions and different accumulations. And it means one's less judgmental about how everyone should do things one's own way and so on, because there are different accumulations. One person may go left all the time, and another may always go right, but it's just according to different tendencies, different conditioned ways of thinking. but the understanding always has to be here and now.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Achan. I have a question about Gaya Pasada, which is supposed to be all over the body. And so that includes inside the body also. I often thought that it was just on the outer part of the body, but it must be all over. When it says all over the body, that includes on the inside of the skin as well as on the outside. Okay, because I was thinking about this morning, well, my feet are cold, and I think, yes, well, that's cold. You know, I understand cold, but this morning I had a real pain in the stomach, and I thought, well, it's more than just pain. There must be something. There must be something experienced for painful feeling to arise, and then it got me thinking about Gaya Pasada. So the pain is caused by something. For example, hot, cold, motion, pressure, hardness or softness. It surprised me actually when I thought about it this morning that and I think it's because of the idea of self, that this is my body, and any of the objects that touch the body are coming from outside, but there is no body in reality. It's just rupas arising and falling. So it was a bit, yeah, okay. Thank you.
I think I think also the word touching doesn't help very much, because usually we think that we touch and not that we are being touched by something or something like that.
Yeah, Roti, that's a good point, because I think that's probably where I've come from. You know, elbow on the hard table and cold wind on my feet, and yeah, good point. Thank you.
And we think of touching as being an action rather than the fact of contact between two different realities.
Exactly.
So yeah, when we feel cold, actually there is, we don't call that touching, but there is the experiencing of body sense, by body consciousness of the cold that is impacting on the outer body.
In the body.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but actually Kaya Pasada is everywhere in the body except hair and nails.
So there can be the experience of the cold at any point at all, but when it's the cold that's experienced, it's just that reality of cold, but it can impinge anywhere. The Pasada Rupa can be anywhere.
Anywhere except nails and hair.
Nails and hair, yes.
Yes, thanks, Roti. I remember that one too. Okay. That's broken down some borders, perhaps.
So like when you talk about the stomach ache, actually no stomach, but there is the painful bodily feeling arising with the chitta, which experiences the hardness or the heat, and which has impinged on the body sense at that area, in that area, but it's just the hardness or the heat that is experienced.
Yes, that helps too, because you think, oh, I've got a pain. It's the pain is a nama, so there has to be some rupa impinging somewhere to cause painful bodily feeling, because it's not like, yeah, the pain is nama, not rupa.
And if that when there's understanding of the nama, it's just that painful feeling, it's just that reality that has arisen and fallen away, different from the hardness that is experienced or the heat that is experienced.
I think a lot of this thinking came up from David's talk on Saturday about pain management and stuff. So it got me thinking about internal pain.
Just just on that question though, if the object of the body consciousness is very unpleasant, say for example a very high temperature, then that is experienced as an unpleasant object. I'm not sure to what extent that is what is taken for the painful feeling, because there's the painful feeling also, of course, which is a nama. But the object, the hardness, the high temperature is a rupa. The heat, yeah, it's a rupa.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's what I was meaning. I wasn't saying that it wasn't so much the painful feeling that was being experienced by the Gaya Vijnana. The Gaya Vijnana, that particular citta experiences an object, which is rupa. But along with that can arise, especially in the case, it's Gaya Vijnana. In that case, it's either pleasant or unpleasant feeling. There's no neutral feeling. Okay, thank you.
What you said, Azita, is about thinking that, you think of the body surface as being the what we think of as the body surface is what is impinged on. But it's so, I can see it's so important to realize that there is no body. And even if we look at body, we do take the conventional look at body, that it's, the skin, the exterior is really just that which holds the interior, that it's all rupa, pasada rupa, that can be impinged upon. So it's really necessary to understand and can get past the feeling or the sense that there is the body. Which,
on the other hand, we can't think our way past that. It has to be understanding of reality.
Right.
It's developed at that high degree. And
right.
As I see it, when that understanding is developed, there is still the idea of my body, because that's thinking, but there is less idea of a self as the understanding is developed more and more. But for example, we shouldn't have the idea it's wrong to think of stomach ache or I've got a pain in the stomach, because that is the conventional way of describing it. And the Sotapanna, for example, would still need to explain, would still have that same way of thinking. Thinking is not accompanied by the wrong view.
Right, and the concept, that's right. There'd be no wrong view that body exists, that it is a concept. but the concepts don't go away. They're just recognized as such.
That's the understanding in truth. No body, no stomachache, no inner and outer body.
Right.
Just different elements, different dhatus that we refer to. We call inner and outer, but actually they're just different rupas.
Yeah.
Couldn't achieve that, huh? When you talk about the inner and the outer Pasat Rupa, what do you think about that? Or what do you mean by way of inner and outer?
Oh, Achan, good morning. I think I mistakenly used to think that that the Gaya Pasada was on the outer part of the body, like Roti brought up. You know, we talk about objects touching, and so it was only over the last couple of days I've thought about that Gaya Pasada must be everywhere, because, and it came from one time we had a discussion and I was saying something about hunger, and I kept thinking it was a feeling, but you were saying, well, what causes the feeling? And I didn't quite get it. But so when there is a pain in the stomach, it's not anything. Okay, it's a painful feeling, but what is causing the painful feeling is what I was querying through the night. And so I figure, well, there has to be Gaya Pasada and Gaya Vijnana arising on the so-called inner part of the body. But really, in actual fact, there is no body.
In terms of absolute reality, is there Kaya Pasada?
In terms of absolute reality, that is the only, well, it's not the only, but yes, it's a reality.
And what is it? The reality, which is not, right?
The Gaya Pasada is the rupa that is, it's conditioned by Dhamma, and it arises in the body to receive tangible objects.
In terms of the reality, which is Kaya Pasada, it's a reality, right?
Yes.
When we don't talk about where it is a reality conditioned to be what?
It's the either the doorway or the base for citta to arise to experience an object.
And only two cittas, right? The Kaya Vijnana, Kusala Vipaka, and the Kaya Vijnana, Akusala Vipaka. But we don't talk yet about the citta. We just talk about the Kaya Pasada. It's real, it's there, it's different from the other rupa, right?
Yes, very different.
Okay, when it arises, it does not belong to anyone. No.
Correct.
Oh, right?
Yes.
It is there. When we don't talk about anything, it's there, a reality, no inside or outside, right? But there is not just one Kaya Pasada. As long as there are conditions for Kaya Pasada to arise, it arises no matter where, right?
Yes, right.
Only in your body, what about the other? But we don't talk about the body, we just talk about that reality, which is conditioned to be such, arising anywhere, right?
Anywhere, yes.
But when you
But not in a tree. Yes, anywhere.
But when you take it for my Kaya Pasata, it's inside, right? You are,
Yeah.
and when the others outside, right?
Right.
Kaya Pasata of the others are not inside you. What you take for
Right.
you. So the Kaya Pasata, which is there, as you take it from my body, is inside and out there, outside, right?
Right.
Okay, but that is one meaning. Another meaning is that among the rupas, some rupas are inside and some rupas are outside. Because at moment of the kaya vijnana citta arises, at that very moment, the inside rupa is the kaya pasata, because it has to be there. Without it, the kaya vijnana, which feel hardness or softness, cannot arise at all. So among all the other rupas, the kaya pasata is the inside rupa. So how many inside rupas?
Well, if Gaya Pasada is inside, then Chaku Pasada, the other senses must be inside Rupa. The other Pasada.
But
Sense
when we talk about the coarse rupa and the subtle rupa, different meaning again, right?
Right.
So altogether, how many coarse rupas are there, which arises to be known all day in life?
7.
And including the pasata rupa too. Even it does not appear, but it is that which can be understood, that it has to be there.
7 plus
Some,
5,
So 8. 8.
12.
12.
yes. That's why we learn to understand that as not self, as the way it is, only when it arises. When its conditioned such rupa to be known as the hardness or softness, it's there because the citta experiences it's an inside the kaya pasata, but the coarse rupa, including the 7 rupas which appear in a day. But it doesn't matter at all as long as there can be the understanding of that which can be understood, because the other kaya pasata cannot be, the others kaya pasata cannot be known. But even the kaya pasata, which is there at moment of seeing and hearing, cannot be the object in daily life at all. But only the object is the object, but not the pasata rupa as the object.
So Sarah mentioned 12. What are the other 5?
Zita, just the 7 that you referred to, the rupas that are experiences through the sense doors, and the 5 pasada rupas you mentioned.
Oh, okay.
Eye sense, ear sense, etc.
Okay. They are more subtle. They're not as they're more subtle than the hardness and the visible object.
Less readily apparent, but still
Apparent,
they're
okay.
classified as gross rupas, those 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As
Wow.
opposed to all other rupas, which are the sukuma or subtle rupas.
Right. Right.
But
Thank
it's
you.
true that if the hardness and the sense object rupas don't appear, then little or no chance of the pasada rupas appearing. But still, they are more gross than the other subtle rupas, which don't appear in daily life at all.
So
It's still classified. Oh, sorry, John. Please continue. I was just going to say that they're still classified as Ita as the Olarika Rupas. It's just another classification. We were talking about this recently too, and they're also collectively called the Sapatiga Rupa. But as Ajahn would remind us, these are just names, and it's the understanding of the reality that appears rather than knowing the names. That's the important thing. Please continue, Tanajan.
Can I ask a follow-up to what to the discussion that Azita's been having with Ajahn? Ajahn, you mentioned something near the end of what you were saying to Azita about inner, I think it was inner rupas and outer rupas, and where the Vijnana Jita arises, particularly, I guess, with relation to Gaya Pasada. I may be expressing this very badly because I didn't understand what
It's like when we read or hear about the ayatanas. So the sense spaces, the pasada rupas, are the inner ayatanas.
Right.
They're the only rupas that are inner,
Right.
and the sense objects that Azita mentioned and all the subtle rupas are outer ayatanas, and the sense spaces are the inner rupas, because they are where the sense consciousnesses arise. So seeing arises at eye sense. So in this sense, it's the innermost rupa, the inner rupa. So this was the distinction that was being made between the inner rupas and the outer rupas.
The eye sense and the pasada rupa, are they
The same?
Those are different? The same. Okay, that's what
The
I
eye
thought.
sense is the pasada rupa, the ear sense is pasada rupa. The eye sense, ear sense, nose sense, taste
Body
sense, body
taste.
sense, yes.
Now, yeah.
So they are the pasada rupas, and they are the inner rupas in this way of considering inner and outer. So it was just distinguishing between, conventionally we think about inner in my body and outer in another, but in terms of the realities, any pasada rupa is inner rupa, and any other rupa is outer.
Right. And along that line, I think the ayatanas then are the would be the pasada rupa. I'm thinking of inner and outer ayatanas.
So then it has to be just at this moment. So at this moment of seeing, the eye sense, the pasada rupa, is inner ayatana, and the visible object that is experienced is outer ayatana, and the experiencing, the seeing itself, is inner ayatana, and the chaitasikas which arise with it are outer ayatana, dhammayatana.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, eye sense and eye base are one and the same thing.
Yes.
Eye base is the Dhamma term. It's a rupa. Eye sense is the conventional term. But the eye base doesn't sense anything, because sensing implies consciousness, doesn't it?
Right. It's
the only respect in which the term sense is appropriate for eye base is that it's sensitive. The eye base, the pasada rupas are sensitive to impingement of a particular rupa, but really can be a bit confusing, because conventionally, if we use the term sense, we imply experiencing something, but that's So in Dhamma terms, it's called the eye base, or the Pasada Rupa, more accurately.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So you're saying that the eye sense does not experience the visible object?
Correct. It doesn't experience, a Rupa can't experience anything, but the visible object impinges on the eye base, on the eye sense, and
Right.
that Rupa is sensitive to impingement by the visible object. And that's what distinguishes the 5 Pasada Rupas from other Rupas. They can receive, or they can be impinged on by a specific Rupa.
Exactly. It means like being sensitive to a specific rupa, right?
Yeah, just in the non-mental sense.
Not experiencing anything,
Not
because
experiencing.
only the chittas can experience.
Being sensitive means that a specific rupa can impinge on there.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think another confusing word for votapa, and we call it tangible object. So that's because I think of, like I did with Roti, what he said, touching, but the same with tangible object. It's still touching something, or something touching me. But today's been really good because it has broken down that, like I called it, the border between out there and in here.
But I think the correct meaning of tangible is can be touched. Not that it touches, but it can be touched. Can't hear you.
Asita, that word there, pattabaramana, that relates to the word pussanakitcha, which relates to passa. So, in contact, as we've talked about this morning, can be internal or external. Tana Janka, I was just going to ask, what you were saying earlier on, I found really helpful. I don't know if you can get your thread, or can you remember what you were talking about when you were answering Kunazita's question? Would you be able to continue that?
Yes, please. About the inside or the outside rupa, or what?
Yeah, especially about the inside rupa. I found that helpful to better understand that the Dhamma is involved in this. Thank you.
When we talk about moment of experiencing an object, for example, seeing, without the eye base or the pasada rupa, the Chakku pasada rupa, they cannot be seeing at all. That's why, what is the inside rupa at moment of seeing? While the other rupas are there, but it's not the condition for seeing to arise. So what is there is the Chakku pasada rupa, right? As the inside rupa at that very moment, because it's really there for such moment of seeing. At that moment, the other rupas has nothing to do at all. That's why the inside rupa is only the sensor, 5 sensor of Chakku pasada, Sota pasada, Khana pasada, Jiva pasada, Kaya pasada. Only 5 is the inside rupa, because it's there at moment of these chittas arise. The other rupa is outside of that very moment. It's outside that moment.
Okay, so when there is what we call, conventionally speaking, internal pain that Azita alluded to this morning, we're still talking, or whether it's inside the body, like underneath the skin, if you like, to be more specific, or on top of the skin, we can still say it. we can still say it's. Sorry,
We
John.
don't think the skin and other thing at all. But when we talk about reality, the Kaya Pasata Rupa, for example, is a reality. It's real, it arises. But where does it arise? When it's the moment of not feeling, even it's there outside, the others Kaya Pasata Rupa, but it's not there at moment of painful feeling or pleasant feeling, bodily painful feeling. See? Bodily pleasant feeling. So it's there. Well, usually Kaya Pasata is a reality. It does not belong to anyone at all. No one. This is the point of understanding Dhamma as Dhamma. Kasata Rupa is no one. It does not belong to anyone. But it's a reality. When it arises, it's there. But when the Kaya Vijnana Chitta does not arise, who knows? The Kaya Pasata is there inside the body, as one take for my body. And the other body, Kaya Pasata, is outside, right? One meaning of inside and outside. At one's own body, in one's own body, it is inside. And the others, no matter Kaya Pasata, Jakku Pasata, are outside, right? Pasata has to be only Kaya Pasata. It does not belong to anyone at all. But when it's there is that moment of feeling, it's there. The other person's feeling, it doesn't matter at all about that because it does not show, it does not appear. But here, painful feeling is there. So the Kaya Pasata does not belong to anyone, but it's there as the Rupa. When it's there, it's inside, while the other Rupa does not perform any function at moment of seeing, of body feeling at all. Little by little, we can understand the truth of no one. It's there just for that very short moment and then gone. Nobody knows until Buddha enlightened the truth. So he showed the truth and we consider the truth because now there is the Pasata Rupa here, not there as we take for the other body. So this is inside Rupa and it's inside when there is the moment of Kaya Vijnana. It's there. While the other Rupas, the whole, what we take for body, has nothing to do at that very moment at all. It does not appear and it cannot be understood as the condition for body consciousness. So the inside Rupa have only 5. The Kaya Pasata, 5 Kaya Pasata only is the inside. At moment of experiencing an object, while the Rupas not there as the condition to be there, to condition the body consciousness. We have to understand little by little, clearer and clearer. Inside the body is inside, outside the body is outside. And when it's inside at the moment of seeing, at the moment of hearing, at the moment of experiencing smell, inside there, while the other, where are they? Rising and falling away, where are they? But that is
outside. So please continue, Ajahn.
But when we talk by the other way, like the near and the far Rupa, there are 12 for the near, which means that it can be known. 12 Rupa, including the object. The Pasata Rupa. 7 objects of the sensor and the sensor 5 altogether the inside of, which means that can be the object of considering, experiencing. But it's there just to show the difference between rupas, that they are different, no one there at all. The point is as it's there to condition, no matter seeing or hearing, then gone completely, instantly, nowhere again. It seems like it's not there at all, but it's there only when it appears at moment of arising and falling away, unknown, until it's known directly. To have the confidence of no one there until it's completely eradicated, no wrong understanding of taking whatever is there as self anymore. So just understand that at moment of seeing, see, even right now, nothing that other rupa are not there at all. Actually arising and falling away, all gone. That's why when that which is not known as object is gone, because as soon as it has arisen, it falls away instantly. Nothing, only thinking and sanya, ignorance from life to life, not knowing that in the reality, nothing is there anymore. Sunyata, anatta. Otherwise, one cannot understand the great virtues of the Buddha. Just say that we respect him. In what aspect? When there's no understanding. Is it real respect? But respect his great virtues that can condition panya to arise and begin to understand what is there now. Otherwise, it cannot be understood at all as it is. Is there any doubt about the inside rupa? Only 5. Because
Well,
where's the rupa, other rupa? Gone. So even they are there, only 5 are the inside rupa.
Achan, that's wonderful. That has certainly cleared up my queries that I had earlier. So thank you very much.
I appreciate your understanding, everyone's understanding.
And I very much appreciate your help to us, Achan.
Because it's only the best thing in life for me. And that is showing respect to the Buddha, to keep his word on and help the others to understand his virtues, great wisdom for everyone. He did everything for everyone.
and Tanajan, I see you certainly in the lineage of the Buddhas. It's just so wonderful to hear you, and I know I'm speaking for everybody. We are so grateful and appreciative of what you do for us all and how you give up your time and your wisdom to share with us. We deeply appreciate it.
And I still keep on doing that.
Ajahn, if I can, I'd like to go back to something you were just talking about with Azita, and I'm not sure I heard it correctly or understood it correctly. When the Gaya Pasada, let's use it, Jaku Pasada Rupa. In order for there to be seeing, there needs to be the Jaku Pasada Rupa, the visible object, and seeing, and pasa, and a number of others, but certainly those. I'll just highlight those 3. So when that is happening, the Jaku Pasada Rupa is the inner, is an inner Rupa, and the the other rupas, the other pasada rupas could be arising and falling away also at that, well, this is what I'm asking about. Can the other pasada rupas be arising and falling away at the same time, however, as they're not being impinged upon by objects that they are sensitive to? Are they called the outer pasada rupas at that point?
Let's say when we talk about the inside or outside, when there's nothing arising at all, can there be anything inside or outside as we take it, or as
No.
it's true? But whatever arises has its own characteristic. At moment of seeing, our rupas conditioned by karma arises and falls away in each moment according to each sub-moment, like the moment of upada arising, the moment when it does not fall away yet, and the moment when it's for karma produced or conditioned rupa to arise with all three moments of one moment of citta, all the time by karma. That's why even while one is asleep, no seeing, no hearing, but they are all rupa conditioned by different conditions all the time, depending on what is there at the moment of actual seeing. It's different from the moment citta, before and after seeing. So what is there as condition? Because we talk about a reality, Jakku Pasata, Sota Pasata, it's real. But what about when it does not arise to what about that which arises inside the body? We take it for inside rupa, right? Because
Yes.
it's there, not far away, the others. But at the moment, the actual moment of seeing or hearing, touching, there must be there rupa, which is conditioned by karma to arise, like other rupas, but they are not there at moment of seeing to appear or to know, to be known as is there too. Because without the eye base, they cannot be seeing. When the eye base fallen away, they cannot be seeing. But only when it has a reason, it's not fallen away yet. And the rupa impinge on it there, see, inside, while the others rupa are not there, outside that moment, outside at that moment.
Right.
So we begin to understand what's meant by inside rupa.
So it's
Even
inside at that moment.
falling away, but at that very moment, what is there inside that moment? At that very moment, there must be the rupa, which are the five pasata rupas. That's why whatever appears in life, the pasada rupas are only the five inside rupas for the moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching.
Mhm.
And I think another way your question can be considered, Anne, is as we've explained, discussed before, the ayatanas refer to the meeting together of a number of different realities. And so at the moment when there is a meeting together of the three you mentioned, eye base and visual object and eye consciousness, there's no meeting of the other pasada. The other pasada rupas are not part of what is meeting
Right.
together at that
Right.
moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I guess I may be demonstrating a lot.
The time.
I'm sorry?
So when we talk about the rupa, we just talk about a rupa at a time, but as they are inside at moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, all five, these are the inner rupa.
Yeah.
But
And
it's one rupa is the inner.
right. And only at the time they're being impinged upon. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, another question, and my apologies if I'm really being ignorant about this, but there's only one can only be aware. There can only be awareness of one Dhamma at a time.
Yes.
Yes. Now, when there is seeing, for instance, there with enough understanding, there could be understanding of either Jaku Vinyana, visible object, or Jaku Pasada. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So at
Yeah.
that time,
Side.
well, yeah. I'm sorry, Tanajan, what did you say just then?
It is a difference for the meaning of the inner rupa 5.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
which be known is the near rupa, not the far rupa. See, in Pali. Sundra, please.
Ajahn, I think they're called Dure and Awi Dure,
Oh, yes, Santike
which
rupa,
means
rupa, right?
yeah, that sounds right. I'm a bit, yes. What word did you use then? What word did you use then, Tanajan?
The 12 Santike rupa in Thai.
Oh, the close ones.
Santike and Ture rupa is far.
Oh, I think that's true, Ajahn. I think I may have got confused. Then yes, Dure means farther away, farther away.
Yes, and Santike rupa, near, right?
Just a minute. Oh, yes, correct, Ajahn. I was just thinking of another. I think there's another word which means Dure and Awi Dure, and you're using the word Santike and Dure, which is the same, virtually, which is another way of saying the same thing.
Same thing, but that meaning is different. When we talk about Santike rupa, or you say Adure rupa, right? Different manners, different aspects, because you see that there are only 5 inner Pasata rupa, Achatika, right? Achatika rupa 5,
Yeah,
and Pahira
yeah,
rupa 23, right?
Yes, true. Ajahn, the word Ajatika literally means it has within it the word atta. So it refers to the internal, the self, so to speak. Just the way the Pali has been put together by way of Sandhi. So you've got Ajatika, which means possessed of the internal, which actually has the word embedded within it, atta. So it's an easy way to perhaps understand it. When you hear the word Ajatika, you'll know it's being referred to as the internal.
So,
and then, of course, on the other side, the Bahira, which is on
the other rupa, the rest 23 are Pahira.
Yeah, please continue.
But this is an aspect of how to classify rupa, right? When we classify the 28 rupa, only 5 are Achatika. Each one is Achatika, altogether 5 Achatika rupa, right? And the other rest, and the rest the Pahira rupa. This is an aspect. And another way to classify rupa is Santike rupa and Dure rupa. So Santike rupa included also the object, the 7 objects. So altogether, Santike rupa 12. Pasat rupa is also the inner and the far and the near Santike rupa. But the Santike rupa included also the rupa which can be object, the 7 rupas, the object of the sense.
Yes, that's right. The Ajatika is just the 5 only, just the 5 Pasada rupas. So it's.
And it is also Santike Rupa too.
Along with the other
Yes.
sense objects, yes.
Mhm.
If people who are listening to this find it quite confusing because there are so many different names sometimes, at the back of Tanajan's book, which Kunina translated, you have all these different classifications of rupa, all these different names like have been talked about this morning. It's very helpful classification. So if people want to refer right at the appendix on rupa, right at the back, I haven't got it with me at the moment from memory. It's the appendix, the first appendix on rupa, and it talks about all these different words, like Ajahn is referring to Santike, Dure, which have often words that are very similar, or if not synonymous with that in the Pali. So it, it can be quite confusing sometimes. But Tanajan, I'm often amazed, remembers all these words. So it can be helpful for us too to learn to understand what these words are referring to.
But it's all right if you use the word Adure Rupa. Is that the word for
I think that is a word. I believe it's called Awidure. I'm not too sure. I can check on that later on. I think we have Dure and Awidure. That's referred to near and far. So, and there's no doubt the word you're referring to, Santike, which also, as you're saying, refers to near. So, as we know, there are often many, like in any language, there are many words that refer to the same thing. Sometimes Intl.Dhamma has specific words, but in the conventional language, in the Pali literature, the words are slightly different, but they can have the same conceptual kind of framework.
But the meaning is far and near, right? Okay, we can use that simple word. That near is the 7 object experienced by the 10 vijnana, including the Pasatarupa too, because it's near, it's not far away, it's there to be known. While we are talking about the other rupa, the Hatayavatu or the Chivitindriya and so on, it's far away from now because it's not at moment of experiencing the object, so it's far from understanding it or being aware of it. See? Only that. Just classify what are there in life that we can understand the truth as it is, as not self. Not even one can be taken for self, because each one is as it is. Seeing is only seeing, hearing is hearing, Jakupasata is Jakupasata. The object of the experiencing of the sensor are just the rupa, which is so near in life because it's there all the time. To let go the idea of self, the point is understanding more, to have more letting go, to condition more letting go moment of understanding. So just learn to understand the truth, no matter what word we use, like near or far is the word, but the meaning is that it's daily life, so near, so close to be known, that it has to be there. At moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, that it's not just seeing, but there are other reality too, by way of the characteristic of rupa itself, by way of ayatana, by way of dhatu, different classification, just to understand the truth that they cannot be taken for self or anything at all, because they are gone. When it's not there, it's gone, arising and falling away by conditions. But what near to know is the moment of seeing, 12 rupa, and what is the inner amongst the 12, only 5 senses, the kaya pasata only, inner, rupa, because without it, how can that rupa, which is the object, impinge on it? So it's what is the moment of impingement, it is the Upasatha or the Pasatha Rupas. It has to be there. So near to be known.
Yeah. So
That's
Tanajan, I've just gone and got your book on Paramattha-Dhamma, on the survey book of Paramattha-Dhammas. And for people who are interested, on page 450, you have the different classifications of rupa. And as Tanajan correctly said, rupas which are santike or near, and then you have rupas which are dure, far. And there are many different classifications. You've got gochara raghahika rupa and agochara raghahika rupa, and so on. Avi niboga rupas and sini wiboga rupas. So many different classifications, but the one that you're referring to, Ajahn, that you wanted to have the name for was the rupas which are near, and these can be considered and understood and penetrated, namely the 5 pasada rupas and the 7 objects, or 7 visya rupa, and the rupas that are dure, far, and difficult to penetrate are the other 16 rupas.
It's so near now. See? Because it appears as Santike, near to understand, and the inner is the Prasada Rupa. While we talk about the other Rupa, they're not as near as that.
I can be very forgetful, Ajahn, and forget that the realities that you're sharing with us and speaking about don't, it's easy for me to forget about them as being Paramattha-Dhammas. And so I appreciate your reminders.
Yes, and you gave a good reminder, I think it was last week, that pariyatti is the understanding, not the word. So we use the words for communicating and to help, but in the end it's the understanding, not the term or the word.
Yeah, totally.
Also without the words, that we could not have any understanding, right? I mean, understanding can only start with words.
There's no way to communicate without using words.
Even the Buddha, when he was enlightened, had to use the conventional language of the day, the agreed upon conceptual framework, and then he built upon that his own language, so to speak, which people gradually got to understand. So that the language, Magadha Bhasa, whatever you like to call it, Pali as it's sometimes called today, or Pali as it is called today, that was the language of the vernacular language. That was the language that people used, and the Buddha used that language. He had to use that language. That was the framework for the Dhamma. And without that language, it would be impossible to share. But as we know, by way of Tanajan, is that he also imbued that language with another framework, so to speak. And this framework, which we can find obviously in the Sutta and Abhidhamma, helps us to more clearly understand the deeper truths that the Dhamma alludes to, not just the superficial ones or the Samuttisatcha. That's the conventional truths, but that framework enables us to develop an understanding of the Paramattha Dhammas that underpin in many ways, or even the ability for there to be Samuttisatcha. If there wasn't some Paramattha-Satcha, and this is what the Buddha revealed by way of Abhidhamma, if there wasn't the Paramattha-Satcha, there could not be the conventional world. But and this is why language has to be used, because it's the conventional or conceptual framework that we all use to communicate with. But it's so important to realize that it's only made possible, this Samuti Satcha, because there is a deeper reality which we refer to as the Paramatta Satcha or Paramatta.Dhamma.
So, Azita, in summary, the 12 gross rupas, the Olarika rupas that you were discussing, the 7 pasada rupas, the 7 sense objects and the 5 pasada rupas are just the same as the 12 santika or near rupas, and the 16 subtle rupas that don't appear, the sukuma rupas, are just the same as the 16 far rupas, the dure rupas. So it's just what is gross is near and what is subtle is far.
I think for me personally, bringing in a lot of the Pali is more confusing, whereas when there is a question come up and Achan explains it quite well in English, I find that very helpful, because that's what I understand. I don't know Pali. I understand English quite well. I don't even know Thai very well. But the Pali does confuse me somewhat. Most of the words I'll forget.
And that's why the understanding is not the word, and that's why someone may be an expert in book Abhidharma or Pali, but not have any understanding. So it always comes back to the understanding.
Most definitely. It's the understanding of what is being said.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. It's been a good discussion.
Yes, very good.
So it seems that it's almost time, but I just had one more question, but maybe it will be answered in the next discussion. But my question...
You've got time. Go ahead.
Okay. So my question is that, for example, when at the moment of Chaku Vinyana, if there's sound, there will also be sound impinging on the ear sense, but there will be no Sota Vinyana at that moment, because at that moment there's Chaku Vinyana happening. But still, can we say that the sound is impinging on the ear sense, even though there is Chaku Vinyana at that moment?
Can it be known?
No, it cannot be known. But can we say that? But it's but the sound is impinging on the ear, right? At the moment of seeing.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, but that which sees can be known at moment of seeing.
Right. But if there is sound happening around, it will be impinging, even though it's not being known.
When there is interested in such, there is no interest in understanding seeing.
Right.
From moment to moment, no matter it's there or not, it impinges or not, it doesn't matter, because it cannot bring about the understanding, because it does not appear. But that which is now appearing is the only reality which can be studied and understand better and better. Otherwise, the eyes try to think about this and that all the time. By conditions, so Panya can see that what is there, doubt or craving or lopa is there, that should be eradicated. And there's not enough time for understanding two together, just one at a time. And what can be known now?
Right.
And it can not get rid of doubt as long as it does not appear. There must be such idea, thinking about that which does not appear.
Right.
And, สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Sawadee ka.
Thank you
We can
very much.
continue next time.
Great discussion.
Bye bye. Thank you.